Hello everybody, I'm here to do a video response to Jonas's The Loooong Association thread, which Rob Peniques threw to me about a week and a half ago, and apologize for the delay, but if anything could have gone wrong or crazy in the Deadwax household in the past 2 weeks, it has. So let's get right to it. Rob ended with Johnny Cash, American 3, Solitary Man. He linked to it with the track from Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down. So we'll start with some Johnny Cash, and lots of Johnny Cash here, and oh, Johnny at Christmas. Christmas is coming. Okay, so let's move on from there. So I Won't Back Down was written by Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne. And Jeff Lynne, hello Ginkgo. Jeff Lynne is of course from the band ELO. So let's move to ELO. ELO's first record, The Electric Light Orchestra. This is a UK first pressing. On the Harvest label. So everybody knows and loves the Harvest label. Now this album art was done by Storm at Hypnosis. Now some interesting notes about this album is in the UK it was called the Electric Light Orchestra. But in the United States it had a different name. I'm not sure on every release, but at least apparently on the first release. Somebody from an executive at the label in the US had somebody call England when the record was coming out to see if what the hell the record was supposed to be called. And they called a couple times and they didn't get anybody, so they left a note for the person that said called England, no answer. And then subsequently the album was released as No Answer. So that's kind of amusing. And then the other interesting note, well not interesting, but kind of a weird bit of trivia associated with this album was the cello player on this album, Mike Edwards. He died on the A381 in England about a year ago. His car was hit by a 1,300-pound bale of hay that rolled down off of a hill onto the highway, hit the car, and killed him. So I don't know, I mean, to me that's a pretty strange and freaky way to go. Now we have somebody who wants to be on YouTube because she heard the other one was on YouTube. So say hello to Ginkgo. There we go. Okay. You've had your 15 seconds. So, move on from the Electric Light Orchestra, Harvest, Hypnosis. What else is Harvest and Hypnosis? Why not this? Pink Floyd, Ummagumma. This is a Canadian third pressing, again on the Harvest label, which we've all seen, know and love. What's interesting about this album is, now this is a Canadian pressing, and you can see here, this is a blank album cover. On the UK pressing and the European pressing, this blank record sleeve actually is the record Gigi, and that is there on that. In North America, the record sleeve was airbrushed and just left white in all iterations. Now, some people think if you find one with Gigi on it that's a rare pressing. That's only a rare pressing if you find an American copy with Gigi on it. Other than that, all the European ones, that's supposed to be there and that's common. And also of note is in Australia, apparently this record was just completely airbrushed out and all there is wall there. So you've got this great cover image that they designed, and what we have here is we have the band and they're all seated in one position, and then if you look in the next photo, the smaller photo, they move. positions. There's a different member in the chair, and then they move again, and then there's a fourth picture here, and they move again. Now, this picture in a picture effect is known as recursion effect or the Drost effect. Now, what's interesting is on the album, once they go through 4 iterations, you're not loud on the table. What's in this picture is actually the album cover for A Saucer Full of Secrets. Now, also when the CD was released, the repeating image goes on ad infinitum up to like the restrictions of printing technology. So that's a little difference between the two of them. And finally, on the back cover is their van with all of the kit laid out in front of it. Now this is taken from military photography, where it's called like an exploded view, where you would they would take photos of like an airplane, and then on the ground in front of it they would lay out all of its payload. So they got the idea from that, and they did it with the band's van and the band's equipment. So, and okay, so now we've done Hypnosis and Harvest again, and third we go from Hypnosis to Hypnosis, Led Zeppelin's Presence. This record's awesome. A lot of people don't really think that this is a very good Led Zeppelin album. They don't rate it very highly. A lot of people don't even know it exists. A lot of people couldn't name a song off of it. I love this Zeppelin album. I think this is, for me, this is probably my favorite Led Zeppelin album. I'm not going to say it's their best record, but for me it's their best record. This album just kicks ass from the beginning to the end. It's not, it doesn't have the dynamic range from the kick-ass rock passages to the like mellow acoustic passages that some of the early records do, but as a hard driving, straight ahead rock and roll album, this is a great record. Now, what Hypnosis did is they created this object here. It's known as the Object, and it's supposed to signify the strength and power of Led Zeppelin, their presence. So there you go. Now, I know the person I want to throw this off to, and I know that they have this record. But the only problem is, I'm not really happy with these choices, because, I mean, this is a good record, nothing wrong with it. Might be their most interesting, but I'm not a super fan of it. And I mean, everybody loves this Pink Floyd album, but this is not the Pink Floyd I'm in love with. And while I love this record, I'd like to get to it in a better way. So let's go back to the beginning. Johnny Cash, we did a Johnny Cash, right? The Johnny Cash, we did this? Okay, so we've done that. Johnny Cash, he put out this record called American 3 Solitary Man. Now, Solitary Man, the title track, is a Neil Diamond song. It was Neil Diamond's first single, and that was on Bang Records. So let's go from Bang Records. Who else was on Bang Records? Van Morrison put out his first record on Bang Records, and then he got into a huge spat with the guy who owned the company, and he refused to do anything else for him. So much so that he was basically not recording or anything. He was just performing in coffee houses in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, the owner died, and the contract almost lapsed, but it didn't. And the owner's widow heard that Van Morrison was living in the United States under some sort of performance visa or trade visa, and she reported him to the DNS and tried to have him exported out of the country, or whatever the hell it's called. And but his wife, his girlfriend at the time, Janet Planet, married him to allow him to stay in the United States. And now people were going down to Cambridge, different producers, different labels were hearing what Van Morrison was doing there, and they were being blown away by what the potential was. But he couldn't put out a record because he wouldn't put out a record for Bang Records. So Warner Brothers stepped in, and they negotiated an escape from Bang Records for Van Morrison. He had to write 3 songs a month for them for a year. And what he did was he wrote like 60-second garbage songs, 3 a month, or maybe he did them all at once, but just junk. So that fulfilled that part of the clause. He had to give them all of the commercial proceeds and rights to the first, to any singles he released in the next year. So they solved that problem by not releasing any singles. And then the third thing was that he had to give them a piece of the publishing on 2 songs off of his next album. So Bang Records owns a little piece of this masterpiece. This is Van Morrison's Astral Weeks, the first record he released after he was rescued from his contract with Bang Records. Bang Records owns a piece of Madame George and a piece of Beside You. So this is a record. I wasn't much of a Van Morrison fan in high school, or didn't really know his music. And at about 20 years old, I read Rolling Stone Top 100 list, and like number 1 was Sgt. Pepper's, and number 2 was Elvis's Sun Sessions, and number 3 was Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. And I was like, what's this, Van Morrison? I think I'd heard Gloria or something before, and that was about it. So I picked this up, instantly blown away. What a fantastic blend of folk, Celtic, pops, a little bit of psych. It's just kind of all over the place. It's genre defying. It's just a brilliant album. It's one of my favorite pieces of music. Cannot go wrong. This is second UK pressing on the Warner Palm, just in case anybody's interested. Sounds great. Find early UK pressings of this record if you can. So on this record is a song called Sweet Thing, and that's going to take us to our next link. Sweet Thing is also on this record by the Waterboys, Fisherman's Blues. Now, Carl Wallinger had left the Waterboys by this point to start his own brilliant band called World Party. And so previously to this, the Waterboys had created what was called the Big Music. And there's a song called the Big Music, but it was a sound. It was like this wall of sound, Phil Spector-y kind of concept, the Big Music. And they put out a couple albums that were that way. And I mean, the Waterboys' Big Music period is, it's incredible stuff. It's brilliant stuff. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes this Celtic folk rock masterpiece. Like, where the hell did this come from? Only Michael Scott and one other member of the band, the fiddler player, was left. And they had gone and they'd recorded this. And one of the things that's on here is a cover of Sweet Thing, and it's a fantastic cover of it's so encapsulates all of the spirit of that song. So from there, how do we get to Led Zeppelin? Because that's where I gotta go. Well, on the Waterboys Fisherman's Blue, the publicity, the PR guy was this character known as B.P. Fallon. Now B.P. Fallon is a real character. He's a poet. He's a artist. He's a musician. He's an actor. He's everything. But he's also a PR agent. And one of the things that he did before he was the PR agent for the Waterboys was he was the PR agent for Led Zeppelin in the 70s. And that brings us back to Presence. So here we are, Presence again. Designed by Hypnosis, who created this item known as the Object, which this was kind of it was in a sense it was an homage to the monolith in 2001. Now, also interesting to note in this cover is this is a fake marina. And this marina was installed at the Earl's Court Arena for the 1974-75 Earl's Court Boat Show, and the photograph was taken there. So more images with the Object. Here is maybe they're channeling the presence of Led Zeppelin into this small child. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. And there's other images. We won't even discuss what's going on in this image. So as you can see, the power and presence of Led Zeppelin is everywhere. So once again, this is a brilliant record. If you have not heard this record, go out, get this record. You can get it. It's dirt cheap. It's probably the most undervalued Led Zeppelin record in their catalog. Get it. Listen to it a half dozen times. If you don't fall in love with it, get rid of it. But it's a fantastic record. And the beauty of it is it's not played to death on classic rock radio. I think maybe Achilles' Last Stand would be the most well-known song. So that takes us to where we want to go, and we got there this time with 3 records that I love: Van Morrison's Astral Weeks, the Waterboys' Fisherman's Blues, and Zeppelin's Presence. I highly recommend these records to anybody. And now, who are we going to throw it to? Well, I want to throw it to Jimmy, the Earl of Suave. So take it away, Jimmy, and have a great day, everybody, and keep the record spinning.